Welcome back to Murder Therapy with Doll Talk and Cousin Ashley.
Hi.
I know we left you guys hanging, but it was a
We did.
really hectic week. Um, Holidays are stressful as fuck.
Mm. Mm.
I was busy. Ashley was busy.
Kids are
It's
home from
just, yeah.
school. You're ready to rip your hair
Yes.
out. We all still have to work
Yes.
while
Yeah,
prepping
it was
food
just crazy.
and, you know,
Yeah.
fun time with
Yeah, I had
family.
to make a turkey for work. And it was really stressful doing that because, listen, my mom is the queen cook of the South. We
Mm.
know this. We've talked about it. So I'm trying to make turkey to my mother's standards. And she waltzed her happy ass over to my ward where I'm at. And she's like, I got to try your turkey, make sure it's up to my standards. And I was like, oh my God.
She's
But
throwing down the
okay, fine.
gauntlet. Gosh.
Yeah, she's like, ugh, I gotta make sure and she approved of my turkey, but then she's found a new recipe, Ash.
Oh, gosh.
This turkey that she made this year, she still did her same process. My mother has a process. You have to love the turkey.
Make love
Yeah.
to the turkey. You have to
Yes, you gotta.
massage the turkey.
Yes, you gotta make sweet, buttery love to
Mm.
this turkey.
And it's so good.
This year, I know it's going to sound
Pornographic.
crazy. She cut two lemons in half and put them in the turkey.
I don't think that sounds crazy.
Well, I had never heard of lemons, but she put carrots,
Mm.
a bed of carrots. She cooked it on top of like a bed of carrots and then celery, and she did like an herb butter thing. I'm telling you right now, that made the best fucking turkey I've ever had in my entire life. Like this year, so you got
Really?
to do that again. Yes, it was
Okay.
incredible. Like I kind of want to have turkey again. I ate a ton of turkey, but I like turkey. But yeah, I need her to do
Oh,
this
wow. Christmas.
for
Christmas is,
Christmas.
yeah.
Yes, Christmas.
We
Yes,
have to
Mom.
see. I'm
She's
a big ham person for Christmas, but my lovely husband does not eat pork. So my
mm-hmm.
mom always makes him a turkey breast. I was like, no, we're gonna get a turkey, and we're gonna Ryan. We deep fry our turkey. I don't know if anybody does that.
Yeah. How did that go?
Oh my gosh. So I'll just say a couple years ago was the first time we did it at my dad's, and my dad got one of those safe electric fryers for inside the house, and it was the best turkey I've ever had. And Ryan was so
Deep
in
fried
love with
turkey is
yeah.
good.
Ryan was like, nope, we're going out and buying a fryer just like your dad's, and we haven't looked back at a big turkey since. It like I'm talking days later when you reheat it, it tends to get dry. No, oh my god, it's out of this world. But and there's usually not a lot of turkey left when we deep fry it. So and we did
So
two turkeys for Friendsgiving, and then we did two turkeys for my mom's Thanksgiving, and then we had my dad's and Ryan's mom. So we always have like a crazy amount of places to go.
I did think about you because I ended up in the algorithm on TikTok where I was watching deep fried turkeys gone wrong,
Oh,
and
she's like, that's gonna be Ashley at her
yeah.
house.
Oh my God. Speaking of algorithm and bad turkeys, so I
Oh,
don't know if anybody else saw this.
that's such a mix.
I know there's in TikTok, like all the things. I don't know if anybody else saw this, but my mom
I'm
I always have the
scared.
best mom syrup.
I'm
I
so
know.
scared.
She wants to kill me every time she listens to this, and she's like, "Stop talking about me on
I
there." But
love I Aunt
I
Kimberly. I
don't
love you so much.
remember. I know. I don't remember how we got on this subject, but we were talking about Thanksgiving. I think I had called her to ask if she needed me to pick up anything or whatever. And she goes, I'm good. I hope that our turkey hasn't been molested. And I was like, what? I was like, I'm, what? I don't understand where that came from. And she's like, didn't you see that on
Mm.
TikTok? Like now that my mom's on TikTok, she's unstoppable. But I was like, no. What algorithm are you in? Because I don't think we're in the same algorithm. And she said, apparently some man did something nasty to a turkey. And I was like, well, I don't know what to
If
say
your
to that.
turkey is, a little creamy this year. No,
Oh,
it was.
ew.
I'm supposedly on the same algorithm because it came up, but I'm just saying that
You were.
they were claiming it was multiple men and they were abusing and essaying the turkeys. However, still alive. But they're saying it was an old video, and I heard somebody say it was like a tactic PETA put out to save the turkeys, you know? So I don't know what's true. You find anything and everything on the internet.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
supposedly it happened at some point. We just don't know if it was this year. You might have got some extra protein with your turkey.
Oh, ew.
I'm sorry.
Ooh, and it takes
Take
a lot to make me
G-rated.
like, yeah, well, it takes a lot to make me cringe, but
I was like,
that's
I
all
didn't.
right, because
I had a Kroger brand turkey, and I was like, no, it was probably made in the same exact factory and just wrapped differently.
oh my God, stop it. Well, Mom said something like it was the Butterball, and I'm like, how do you know what brand it was? Like,
It says it. Well, I'm on the same side as Aunt Kimberly. It's fine. I'm with her.
so confused.
But other than that, I had a good little break. I took Mom out on a date, you know, her little wiki ways. I had to take her to see Wicked.
I know, I saw that. Was it good?
Listen, we were the nerds that cried at the end. Oh, God, it was fantastic.
Aw.
But
well,
I went to New York
okay.
my junior year, and I got to see the Broadway version with the OG cast, Dina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth as
That's
the
awesome.
leads. Oh my God, it was phenomenal. And I didn't know what I was watching and how magical it was at the time. And then they came back a year later to Cincinnati, and I went with my school, but got Mom and a bunch of her friends tickets, and they met us there. So I got to watch it with my mom. So I was like, I have to take her to see this movie. It was great.
I love that.
It was so great.
I love that you did that. But it's okay that she cried in Wicked. It's fine. We're not going to judge her. Because there's a good chance that I'm going to cry when we do this case that we're covering.
I'm ready. Yes. She is
so
gung-ho about this case. She's been wanting to do this since we started.
Yes. Just like we did, the last one we did was Gwen Shamblin, but this one is one that I have wanted to do. I'm very passionate about this case. My mother's going to be really proud because she was like, when are you going to do somebody that's not an asshole? And it's like, well, it's kind of hard to cover true crime. You always have to have an asshole somewhere in there because that's the source of, you know,
we're never
the
gonna
story.
I guess we could do like a self-defense type of case. We'll look into that.
When we have.
Yeah.
We have, but yeah, so she was like, when are you going to do one that's not an asshole? Well, I have one for you, except there are assholes involved. I'm going to be very upfront. Of course, Ashley doesn't know this. We've learned this. I'm going to just stop saying it because she doesn't know any of them.
Too busy, guys.
That's okay. That's okay because you're not alone. And the whole reason that this got pushed up the ladder, because I was going to wait. Because unfortunately, with the West Memphis 3, there's a lot of information. There's lots of documentaries. There's lots of interviews.
Is there?
You can go down the rabbit hole. Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of what we've pulled has come from the documentary Paradise Lost, as well as the books that's been wrote. There's a lot. I have examined this in every way possible that I could tell you guys. I like to go from beginning to end, as you all know. Mm-hmm. There's many ways that I could go from beginning to end, though, with this. That's the thing. It's just, there's a lot. And I'm going to try my fucking hardest to do it in 3 parts. However,
she's serious. When
I tell this story, I want to tell it the way I don't think I'll ever tell it in the justice that it needs to be told. I'm just going to be very upfront. This episode is going to get very graphic. Ashley can't escape, unfortunately. She has to listen to it. But I will give you guys trigger warnings because this does incorporate the death of 3 young little boys, okay?
Oh.
In a very graphic, terrible matter. The reason I am so passionate about this case is because deals a lot with, unfortunately, I'm going based upon facts. I am biased. and if Ashley thinks I'm being too biased, I want you to step in and tell me. However, I'm going to give you facts of how this judicial system convicted 3 young men, all because they disagreed with religious beliefs.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
first of all, just looking
So,
at the three, there's a lot of hair going on. That's my first
mm-hmm.
opinion.
I love it. She did say before we started, she's like, I see some hick. And I'm like, well,
They look
that works
very
because,
hickish. Yeah, I mean, the one's
well, we're
rocking a
going to,
mullet. It's fine.
well, aside from religion, politics kind of gets into this. You're looking at religion. We're looking in the era that heavy metal was really popular. Okay.
Classic
So a lot
garage
of these
grunge.
things, yes, yes.
Yes.
But what I'm giving you isn't just my opinion. It is facts. And if you don't believe me, you are welcome to look it up because I had to reread some of these things several times and I'm like, this is fucking bullshit. But I had to go and read it again.
Oh, Lord.
So I do get very emotional about it because me working in the field that I work in, and when you get the whole story, it makes me really angry. Very angry and
I
very
don't know if
emotional.
I'm ready to be angry.
We'll get ready.
Maybe that's
you
why I
have
live
to,
under a rock. It was so funny because my mom and I, when we saw Wicca, we explained how she relates to Elphaba, and I am Galinda. I like happy.
You
I
are
like to live in
Glinda.
a bubble. I don't like to make waves. I don't like things that put me in a weird mindset.
Well, I believe in equality. I stand by that. Regardless of your sexual orientation, your race, no matter what it is that you did, I don't think that I'm any better than anybody else. And I guess that's why I get so emotional about it, even though it's beyond my control.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and we're going to talk about it today.
Let's
So,
go.
yeah. But before we dive into the West Memphis 3, we're going to have a little bit of a history lesson pertaining
Yay!
to, yes,
Going back to
yes,
school. Back to school.
we're going back to school, but not your like normal history like this is when the first president. This is based upon when the Satanic Panic started, okay?
Satanic
Because I don't
panic. I like that.
sorry, Satanic
Sa-
Panic. Not
I
Santanic,
like that.
Satanic. We can call it that.
I'm so distracted by the
Yeah.
filter. This filter is so bright. You guys will all see it. Well, if you watch it on YouTube, it's like in my
Yes.
glasses, and I'm like trying to turn so it's not always. But you guys, I cannot see without my glasses. So
She can't. No. She can't. But so the Satanic Panic, okay? This is kind of what led to that, where people had this idea that all these satanic cults were roaming the earth and basically doing human sacrifices all the time. That just didn't happen overnight. Things contributed to this weird idea that people are sacrificing other people and abusing children and all the things, okay? So we are going to 3 films that contributed to this, okay? We have, yes. So the very beginning of this whole panic started with Rosemary's Baby. That was it. Yes, Rosemary's Baby contributed to this whole satanic panic thing, okay? The Exorcist, which came out in 1973.
interesting.
Fun fact, I'm pretty certain it was either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Bad choice, but it came out on either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, one of the two, in 1973.
Blew my mind. Why not Halloween? That's so weird.
I don't know. But you know, they claim that
Eve.
The Exorcist. They claim that The Exorcist is based on a true story. But yeah.
Okay.
So, and then The Omen. The Omen also
I love
contributed
that
to
movie.
that, and that came out in 1976. Now, according to Joseph Laycock, okay, patients that were hypnotized by therapists to recover memories, you know, or whatever, often would talk about scenes from these movies. So apparently that must have been like traumatic or whatever. I don't know. I think it did give a whole different meaning to horror movies during that time. But yeah. Now, obviously, new religious movements wasn't happy with all these films, right? This is when The Exorcist is the big thing as to why everybody started freaking out about the Ouija board, which is one of my favorite communication
Mm-hmm.
mechanisms. It was like after that movie came out, everybody was like, oh my God, that's the gateway to hell. Yeah, it changed. Those movies changed everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, when Charles Manson contributed his crimes to society, that was they looked at that as a cult. Well, it was a cult murder, but not just a cult, like a devil worshipping, like sacrificial murder cult thing. Okay. Now, Mike Warnk. He's a lovely person, said no one ever. Yes, he is known for making the memoir The Satan Settler. And this is his like little biography talking about how he was brought up in a satanic cult and he was utilized in orgies and they listened to heavy metal music and they did terrible things. They killed people. They used drugs all the time. I mean, he was living a really shitty lifestyle. And this obviously Christians, not all Christians, I don't mean that in a derogatory manner, but they used that, right, as people
Yeah.
that these people aren't right with God. And they were pulling people into churches and whatnot off of this. But here's a fun fact. Mike Warnk was proven to be a fucking liar. He didn't go through any of that at all. But by this point, his book had already made it as like a bestseller, okay? And everybody's talking about it, so no one, just like in today's time, they don't want to acknowledge things that come up into the media as this person has done this. They're like, but it doesn't matter. We believe him anyway.
Oh,
Like,
Jesus.
yeah.
It's in a book.
So it's in a book. He wrote all about it, even though they showed, they gave lots of proof that they debunked it all. They're like,
Mm,
nah, he said he was here, but we have this picture of him when he was actually here at this time, things like
yeah.
that. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, we could probably do a whole episode on him. I just want to give you the Cliff Notes version of how this contributed into a lot of the beliefs that people have in today's time. And that little chapter of history plays a huge role in what we're about to talk about.
Okay.
So,
I'm taking notes
yes,
just so you guys know. Jody told me she's like, there's so many people
I
involved.
was. There is a lot of people. Now, Mike Warnk isn't involved in this.
No,
I just
well,
like
I
to
wrote
throw
him
his.
down.
Yeah. Well, you can keep his name if you'd like to look him up. He's a terrible fucking human being. Like,
I'm gonna write my
like
questions down too because this is a multiple parter and I don't want to lose any questions toward the end of
there's a
ours.
lot.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So we are traveling to West Memphis, Arkansas. Okay.
Arkansas.
Um, Yes, Arkansas. There you go. So we're going to talk about our first victims because honestly, there's really 6 victims total in all of this. 3 of them are deceased though. So we're going to talk about the 3 deceased little boys. Okay, so here we go. You've got Steve Edward Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore. They were all second graders at Weaver Elementary School.
They
Mm-hmm.
were babies.
They were babies. It's really
Oh,
heartbreaking. And if you look them up, their pictures are just
oh
like
my
look at me. You're
god.
already I haven't even got into it yet and I'm already like it's really heartbreaking,
My
okay?
mom heart's already hurting. Okay.
Yes. So they were all Boy Scouts together. They were all best friends. Yes. They were a rank of the wolf, whatever the hell that means. I don't know. My boys didn't do Boy Scouts or anything, but in the local Cub Scout pack, okay? Now Stevie Branch, okay, he went by Stevie. He was the son of Stephen and Pamela Branch. They had divorced when he was an infant. His mother was awarded custody and she later married Terry Hobbs. That's the name you're going to want to write down. Now, Stevie was 8 years old. He was 4 foot tall, 4 foot 2 inches tall. Sorry. He weighed 65 pounds. He had blonde hair. He was last seen wearing blue jeans and a white t-shirt, riding a black and red bicycle, okay? He was an honors student. He lived with his mother, Pamela Hobbs, his stepfather, Terry Hobbs, and his 4-year-old half-sister, Amanda, okay? Now, Christopher Byers was born to Melissa Defer and Ricky Murray. His parents divorced when he was 4 years old. And shortly afterward, his mother married John Mark Byers. That's another name you're going to want to write down.
You said
who
John
adopted
Mark?
him. John Mark Byers. We'll probably just refer to him as John Byers. But yeah, that was his full name. He ended up adopting Christopher. Christopher was 8 years old, 4 feet tall. He weighed 52 pounds. He had light brown hair. My fun fact about him. Oh man, it's gonna get me choked up. He still believed in the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus.
That
He
sounds
was like a
about
full
right.
kid at heart.
Because
Yeah.
I think I
Well,
was in
some
fourth
kids
grade.
don't.
Well, back then I felt like it lasted longer than it does now. And I was about fourth grade when I found out, you know, I hope no
Yeah.
kids are listening. God, I hope they are.
Well, I
just
hope
period.
not.
But, so I don't ruin anything. But,
Carson, yeah.
stop believing in Santa Claus around fourth grade.
Well, I will say that Carson had to get 4 teeth cut out yesterday. And so he got to keep his teeth. He didn't tell me he was putting it under his pillow, mind you.
no.
And this morning, here he comes with the whole little box of his little teeth, and he slams it on the kitchen table. They had a snow day today. And he's like, explain this. And I was like, what? And he goes, explain this. And I was like, I don't think the Tooth Fairy got the memo because I didn't know. But obviously, so tonight I'm going to put money under there. But my mom was like, don't you think he's a little old? I'm like, listen, if he wants to believe in the Tooth Fairy until he's 18 years old, I'm fine with that.
I will roll with it. You just tell. I'm so good
I
at
will.
catching stuff on the fly like that. I'll be like, oh, you know what? She called me last night and she said she was running behind. Her list is really long with all the kids losing teeth right now.
He did. He slammed it. He was like, explain this. Like, yeah. Anywho, so.
It's not going to last very much longer if he's
My
questioning
son's still-
you
yes.
like that.
I know. Well, he's brought it up before. My little mommy heart. Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to talk about it. But anywho, all right. So Michael Moore, our third boy, he was the son of Todd and Dana Moore. He was 8 years old, 4'2". He weighed 55 pounds. He had brown hair. He would literally wear his Cub Scout uniform everywhere he went. He loved being a Cub Scout. That was like his favorite thing ever. He was considered like the leader between all three of them. Okay. He lived with his parents and his 9-year-old sister, Dawn. Okay. So now we're going to May 5th, 1993. This happened in the 90s, Ash.
The 90s. You said 93?
Yes. 1993.
I was 4.
I was 3.
Depending on when it was.
On May 5th.
Oh, I was getting ready to turn 4.
So, at 2:55 p.m., Stevie was at home with his mother, Pamela. Okay. This was after school had got out. I'm sorry, not Christopher. Michael had rode his bike over to Stevie's house, and he had knocked on the door, and he wanted Stevie to come out and play with him, and they were going to go ride bikes. Okay. Be kids. And in that time, it was okay for you to let your kids ride around the neighborhood and all the things.
I was outside all
She
the time.
said, well, Pamela said in her interview that he had said, can Stevie go ride with me? And she said to him as they were riding off, she said, boy, you better be home by 4:45. I'm getting ready. I got to go to work. And Stevie said, I'm sorry. Michael had said, we'll be back, I promise. Little did she know that would be the last time that she ever saw her son alive. Yeah, I know.
I can't.
So it's about 3:40 p.m. They're taking off on their bikes. Okay. Now, apparently, We don't really know where Christopher was during this time. This was like during the between 3 and 3:30. They did talk to somebody named Bobby Posey, and he said that Christopher had dropped by his house around 3:30 and told him that his daddy had whipped him and that he wanted to run away. Apparently, he had got in trouble at school that day and had been sent home a little bit early.
Okay.
Um, Now, John Byers had later, many years later, in an interview, he did say, "I did whip him that day with his belt, with his pants still on." Those things happened. I grew up in the era. My parents spanked me, so
I got the belt. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. This was in 2006 interview when he talked about spanking him. He said, "I spanked him 3 times with my belt with his pants up." Okay, now at about 4:30 p.m., there was a woman named Narlene Hollingsworth, and she recollects that she had saw the three boys riding their bikes. She just explained them just the way that I explained them. She said they were kind of in the road, and she almost hit them
Oh,
with her vehicle, not intentionally. I'm sure that they were probably riding all over the place, probably not paying attention, being kids, and she about hit them. Um, but she did say that some of them were heavy set based upon that weight. Doesn't really go with what I just explained. The clothing did, but not so there has been speculation, was there more kids, or it's
yeah.
yeah. So the first sighting of all three boys together again was between 5:30 and 6 p.m. This is when a man named Carlos Seals saw the boys heading into what was called Robin Hood Hills. So we're going to talk about what Robin Hood Hills is.
Can
That's
we
kind of
just
like the wooded
mention
area.
that, is it Michael should have already been home?
Yes, they should have already been home at
Okay.
this point. Yeah.
Breaking the
Yes.
rules.
Well, that was Stevie. Pamela was
Oh.
like, "You better get your ass home. I got to go to work," and he did not come back home. But unfortunately, it's really sad. But Robin Hood Hills was a very woody area. Okay, it's not somewhere that parents would advise their kids to go play. If anything, I think that parents probably told their children don't go in that area because there was lots of ditches and swampy areas. I mean, it really is not safe at all. And on the other side of the Robin Hood Hills is what they call it. There is a truck wash area, which we're going to kind of talk about here shortly. But I just want to give you this idea. Like, it's a huge area, but it's not somewhere that kids definitely need to be riding their bikes. You would get hurt,
Yeah.
especially going in there late at night. But we know, I've done it before when my mom was like, "Don't do that." I did that because she told me not to.
Why?
And in my mind, I'm like, why? Why not do that? But yeah, so obviously they went on into Robin Hood Hills. Apparently, that's what this guy says, that was the last that he saw of them, and they just kind of wandered off from there. All right, so the first report to the police was made by Byers' adopted father, John Byers, around 7 p.m.
Okay.
He called to advise them, my son's not been home. He's missing. Don't know where he's at. Blah, blah, blah. Now, Stevie's mother, Pamela Hobbs, okay, remember she had to go to work, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So she worked a shift at what was called the Catfish Island restaurant. I guess she was a server there. Her husband, Terry Hobbs, had taken her to work. So he comes to pick her up, okay? He had dropped her off at about 4:30 p.m., picked her up at approximately 9 p.m., and walked straight to a payphone to report that Stevie was missing. Didn't say anything to Pamela. Just went straight to a payphone.
Weird.
To report that Stevie was missing. Now, when Pamela years later, of course, had this interview, and this is what she said. She said that he walked into the restaurant, went directly to the payphone. He did not say anything to me. He did not tell me who he was calling. And he did not tell me that Stevie was missing. He didn't say anything. And
That's
obviously,
weird.
because they were calling from the restaurant, guess where the police reported to? The restaurant. Because that's where the call was made.
Yeah.
So, according to local West Memphis police officers on the evening of May 5th, 1993, at 8:42 p.m., we're going to travel to the Bojangles, okay? Um,
Like the restaurant?
yes, we're going yes, the
Okay.
restaurant. Yeah. So workers at the Bojangles restaurant called police to advise them that a black male entered the restaurant covered in mud and blood, was very disoriented. He went to the bathroom. He ended up leaving the leaving, but there, I mean, he had made a terrible mess. I mean, they said it was
Mm.
really bizarre. So obviously they call to report this because that's not something you see every day at the Bojangles. Okay. Um, Officer Regina Meeks responded to that call. She did not go in. Don't ask me why. She went through the drive-through. Why you would do that is beyond me. She's talking to them. They're like, do you want to go in? And she's like, nah, I'm good. And I'm like, don't you think you want to go in and investigate the bloody Bojangles? I'm
Yeah.
really confused.
I'm just
But
saying
she
that
didn't.
Mud and Blood should have been the name of this podcast.
Mud and blood.
Mud and
Yeah.
Blood.
Well, so she's getting report from the restaurant manager through the fucking drive-through. I just want to know if
Yeah.
anybody else was in line waiting for their chicken and biscuits,
I would have
like
been
while
pissed
she.
being behind that car.
Yeah, you're gonna have to stop honking at me, sir. I'm getting information about the bloody Bojangles right now. Like, but again, I don't understand why you wouldn't go in. That's concerning.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. So while she's getting report about the bloody Bojangles, another call comes in that about missing children, and she's like, "Yeah, I gotta go." And it's like, there's this call about missing children, and I'm here at this Bojangles that has the men's bathroom is covered in damn blood and mud. Maybe I should go investigate this, but no, I'm gonna go respond to the missing children's call.
Yeah. They're not
Yeah.
related at all.
Yeah, that's not well. We'll get into it. So, obviously, people are responding. They're looking for kids. It's May. We're in the deep South. I don't know that I reiterated this in the beginning, but we're also in the biggest depths of the Bible Belt of America that you possibly can be in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're in the fucking belt buckle. We are in the area of the britches that put buttons them together. Okay, I mean it's hardcore. I know I talk about all the time that I'm in the Bible Belt, but they don't like my Bible Belt area has nothing on this area's
You're in
Bible
the
Belt
zipper
area.
of the pants.
I'm in the zipper, yeah. So they went to investigate in Robin Hood Hills. Remember, I told you it's really swampy, it's nasty, it's muddy. You know, mosquitoes and bugs and all that like swampy areas.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
humid as fuck. So, where it was dark and humidity and all the things, apparently all the bugs, like you could not get through there to actually look. So they ended up not being able to actually do a very thorough investigation until the next morning, and they all met up at 8 o'clock that morning. And that's when people kind of went through Robin Hood Hills. No one's finding anything. You have people looking in parking lots, like they're proactively trying to find these little boys because this isn't things that you heard of during that time of,
Yeah.
missing kids. And I take it that they had to like be riding bikes and going, doing these things before and came home like they were supposed to.
When
so
the streetlights came
can
on.
you? Yes, when the streetlights came on.
So at this point, all three of them have been reported missing.
All three of them were reported missing, correct,
Okay.
yes. And then there was the call about the bloody Bojangles the same night, okay? I can't emphasize that enough. But, all right, so they're looking. Most of the, public that came in to help were all looking, again, in parking lots, other streets, mainly police. I think some civilians were in Robin Hood Hills. Um, but most of like society kind of was out, looking. You get what I'm saying, in
Like a
other
search
areas. So
party,
you have a
yeah.
lot, right, like a search party thing. So you have police in Robin Hood Hills. So warning, this is where we're going to get very graphic, and I'm going to apologize in advance. So you may want to fast forward, because we are going to be talking a lot about mutilation, um, just a lot. Okay, so you have been warned.
Ugh,
Trigger warning.
I'm not ready.
So around 1:45 p.m., juvenile parole officer Steve Jones, um, he's like walking around like this creek area, and he happens to spot a black shoe floating in a muddy creek area. So he's like, oh my gosh, this is a sign. Mind you, they've been walking these wooded areas all day.
Yeah.
They didn't spot any blood. They didn't spot anything that would be alarming, like, okay, this is concerning. They did see one of their bikes, so they did know, oh gosh, I just knocked my mic. They did know that there has to be something within Robin Hood Hills, okay?
Don't break the fine
So
microphone.
I know, right? I did. I smacked
We
it.
told them
But
they need to sponsor us.
they,
They're pretty microphones. They change colors and everything.
they,
They work really well. We
they
can't break
do
them.
work really well.
Can't break them.
Yeah, they're great. So he gets in the water. Like he's walking out, and
He's in
it's
a
like really
swamp,
muddy.
and he's in
They're
the
like in a
water.
swamp area. Well, yeah, you've seen this little boy's. Something told him, I need to look in the water,
Oh, he's brave.
and that he's feeling around when he happens to feel like a stick, kind of like it's punctured down into the mud, because it's literally like, I'm imagining. It's just muddy waters. It's gross.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to feeling around, and he happens to lift up some clothing. Okay. And it's really bizarre. So you have like their clothes basically stuck down into the water. They did end up finding one of the boys in the water.
Was it anchoring him
Hog-tied by
down?
no, that was anchoring clothing down.
Okay.
But then they found the boys. So each one of them they were obviously were deceased. They had been hogtied by their own shoelaces, each one different and very disturbing ways. They had been mutilated. Again, trigger warning, as if this wasn't enough. Some of them there was bite marks. There was, they had cut their genital areas and castrated them. I mean, so it was very, very brutal. Okay. And just awful. If you watch Paradise Lost, I'm going to give you a trigger warning. You see their bodies on that documentary. Like, they were filming this as they were going. So obviously they make the announcement, they get on the radio, we have found them. They call for the coroner, all the things. It's fucking awful. Like, I can't even imagine being like,
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The parents, the people that found him.
So we're going to talk about this crime scene for a minute, okay? Because we're in the water. There was cuts, there was bruises, there was like bite marks, it was really bad. One of their faces looked like it had basically like been like bit into. It was awful.
It's kind of stupid on their part, because even in the 90s, bite marks were good evidence to catch DNA.
Well, you would think.
Stop. Okay.
You would think, but the thing is, all right, so there was head wounds. Again, we're talking about castration in this area. Those two areas are very sensitive to bleeding. There's no blood anywhere. So, do you get what I'm saying? Like, there would have to be, granted, I know they were in the water.
Yeah.
So, police are like really questioning. You've got three boys that are hogtied. They all were assaulted in different ways. They believed it's very well possible that they could have been sexually assaulted before they were murdered. But three boys, bikes, was it somebody that they knew that did that? You know what I mean? So all
Yeah.
these questions are going through their mind, and these are logical questions to ask. And it's
Absolutely.
like, the murder couldn't have happened here because if they did these acts here, we would have blood here on the bank. There is no blood on the bank. The head is a sensitive bleeding area. That area is a sensitive bleeding area. So what the fucking happened? I mean, it's a lot. It's just, and they'd been going through the woods and no
Yeah.
one saw anything. It's very bizarre. So they are immediately, um, they're thinking, is it somebody that they knew? Like somebody that they trusted? Because what if this is going on, how, or is there more than one person? Because why wouldn't one of them have at least got away
Right.
and ran? You know what I mean? So there's all these questions going. um
Did they leave their bodies out in the open? They just didn't even try. They hid their clothes and
no,
stuff.
they submerged them in
Oh, they were
water.
in the water too.
They were
Okay.
in, so they were in the water. That's how they found them, and they literally had to so when they found one, they knew that the other two were there. I'm not going to, like, you're welcome to look up, and it's there. You can look it up and they'll explain to you, this is the first person we found, this is the second. I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty of how each individual one, this is what happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
You're free to look that up if you want to. I can't, as a mother, I can't do that.
I
That's too
can't.
much for me.
I won't either.
It's but I want to explain it in that sense. To properly tell it, you don't have a choice. But um at this point, so they're questioning all these different scenarios. Could it be someone that they knew? Is it a sexual predator? Is there more than one person? And then someone says, or is it a sadistic ritual? Because that makes perfectly good sense, right? They're immediately going off the fact that they're, hogtied in all these ways, that perhaps this was a sadistic ritual, right? So they've called in. I know. So, um,
I mean, my
again,
head wouldn't
there's
have
little
went straight
blood.
to that, but
Well, don't worry. We're going to get into why it did.
okay.
Yeah, don't worry. So they they've called it in, right? The coroner responds. There's media outside of the woods waiting. The parents are waiting. I can't imagine. They do have, again, this is on the documentaries. Like, they put everything on the documentaries. But you can hear when they come out with their bodies, like Pamela Hobbs' scream to this day is still embedded in my mind. Like, it's, here I am, like, whew. Yeah,
Stop! Oh my
it's
god.
rough.
I
I
just
know
can't.
it's hard.
I think that's a parent's
So
worst nightmare.
it is, and that let alone, like, I don't think that I just can't imagine what they go through every day getting up out of
Mm,
bed, like knowing what we know, what little we do know about what happened to these three boys.
yeah.
But yeah, so they've put it on the radio. I want to emphasize that again. They did say they don't want this getting out in the papers and everything. However, what they failed to remember is that this is back in the 90s when news stations would actively listen to,
Police scanners.
yes, police
Mm-hmm.
scanners, and it was already in the paper before they'd even finished the autopsy. And
You
people were
can't. That's
going wild.
huge. That is huge. How
Mm-hmm.
do you keep? I mean, because I remember we obviously. I don't know if anybody else how big outside of here, but like when stuff is local to you,
Mm-hmm.
It blows up and people start freaking out. We have this girl, still cold case today. We still talk about it, but it was Erica Baker. She disappeared, and still to this day we don't have a body, we don't have anything. Her murderers were captured and refused to tell us where they were. One of them died, not telling us where she is. But and then
It's a big thing.
yeah, and then the other one that I remember growing up, it wasn't even local. It was Elizabeth Smart that
Mm-hmm.
disappeared, and she was found. But that stuff gets out like wildfire. You can't hide that. You can't.
Well, and the thing is, this is in the deep South. This isn't like okay, this little boy went missing. I'm not saying that those things aren't bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible when those things happen. This is like a very brutal, terrible crime. Of course, it's going to go everywhere,
Absolutely.
but it did. It did. And they were talking about very sensitive details that should not be released on the police scanners, okay? Um about some of the mutilations on the boys. Again, details that should not be released because that to me that would be good interrogation tactics if you have a suspect. But sure enough it was, and of course the media went crazy, okay? Now, the day after the boys' bodies were discovered, and they have the autopsy going on and all the things. Lieutenant James Sudbury, which is one of West Memphis's police department, contacted Steve Jones. Remember, Steve's the one that did go in the water and he discovered them. And I
Mm-hmm.
have to say that has to be very traumatic. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, Steve Jones is a fucking dick. Like, yeah, I'm not sorry, West Memphis, Arkansas. Like, I hope your police department still doesn't have some of these dickwads in it because they're terrible people. But
Mm-hmm.
anywho, I know I told you I'm very passionate about this case. Like, I get really emotional about it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to tell you how I really feel. So, um, Steve Jones was the juvenile officer for Crittenden County. Okay, um, they're having a conversation about, what they has been found, potential suspects, potential motive, all
Mm-hmm.
the things, right? And Steve Jones expressed that he had a really strong belief that this was a cult sacrifice because that makes perfectly good fucking sense. Steve Jones, like I would have went there with the exact same thing. He
Is he
then
the one that threw it
informed,
out before?
uh-huh,
So he keeps
yeah,
bringing it up.
uh-huh, he's like,
Interesting.
this is totally a cult. I believe with every shadow of my soul that this is a satanic ritual cult sacrifice.
Hmm.
Okay? That's our motive. So we got to find suspects that meet that motive, right? Okay. So
And what
he
is
he
that?
oh, well, we're going
Ugh.
to get, oh, don't worry,
Okay.
we're getting right there. So Jones then tells Sudbury he knows of somebody. He knows. He's like, there's just, there's this one person I know of, and he's involved. He's involved in cult things. He's all about devil worshiping. He's all about those things. And I think he's 100% capable of committing this crime. And his name is Damien Echoes.
Is this a name?
Well, I'm about to introduce to you our three gentlemen that's up above us right
Hey,
now.
hey, okay.
Yes, so Damon Eccles. I'm sorry, I said Echoes, but it's Eccles. I'm sorry.
Eccles.
Damien
Okay.
Eccles, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miss Kelly. Now, Jesse is the one with the mullet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Damien is the one with the more dark black hair.
Okay.
And then I can't see the picture that you've got up right now, but Jason, I think is Jesse at the end with the
Short,
mullet.
shaved like hair.
Yeah, Jason is the one with the short, like shaved kind of hair. So
Okay.
they were kind of known as the town's misfits. Okay. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They're just different. Now Jesse and not Jesse, excuse me, Jason and Damien were best friends. They both like to wear black. They liked Metallica. That was their favorite band. They were different. And they weren't afraid to be different, which I'm all about people embracing. You don't need to blend in your surroundings. And if
Yeah.
your surroundings tells you that you need to blend to, what they like and what they want, get better fucking surroundings.
Mm.
Damien and Jason didn't do that. They led to the beat of their own drum, and I love that. Now, Damien um, also was a Wiccan. He practiced. Apparently, he wore a dark trench coat, and people thought that that was weird and bizarre. I'm not saying Damien is an asshole by no means, but he is an asshole. He got to this point, and I'm sure it just became because people would target him because he was different than everybody else. He
Yeah.
would embrace the fact that you were scared of him. You know what I mean? Does that make sense what I'm saying? So
I'm
he
just
kind
catching the
of,
vibe. Like, my mom always hated her being Wiccan, how some people brought it to light and they did make it look satanic. Like, these
they
teenagers were
did.
taking the worst aspects of being Wiccan and running with it. They don't truly practice it
I
correctly.
don't think that that's what Damien did, but we're going to talk a little bit of how he ended up embracing that. So that'll give you a little bit more of an understanding because I
Okay.
think telling Damien's story, telling all their stories is important so people understand the background and why this pisses me off to the degree that it does. Because quite frankly, if this was today's time and you're prosecuting people on their spiritual beliefs, me and Natsu would be prosecuted.
Facts. Yeah.
I mean, it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So now, Jason and Damien both had previous run-ins with the law for doing stupid petty shit. Okay, I'm not condoning their behaviors, but they had done the tip. They were teenagers. Okay, they now Damien and Jesse both had dropped out of high school. Jesse wasn't like really best friends with Jason and Damien, but there's a reason he gets tied into them. He was an acquaintance. He had been around them. He knew who they were, but it's not like they were like three amigos like Stevie, Christopher, and Michael were.
Yeah.
Okay. But Damien he was very open about his religious beliefs and the fact that he did practice witchcraft. He was very open about it. As far as their crimes that they had been in, it was like vandalism, like shoplifting, stupid shit. Okay, that definitely not murder, but yeah. Now they they loved Metallica. They were known for that. They liked the heavy metal thing. Damien did have mental health issues. Okay, which we're going to talk about for a second. Um, Jason was a good student. He was still in school. If I'm not mistaken, he made like straight A's. Um, he was super smart. He had goals. But because he was an associate with Damien, that put a target on his back, if that makes sense. Okay.
Guilty by association.
So, yes. Now, Jesse Miss Kelly, this is what really, really gets to me. Um, Even though he wasn't friends with either one of them, he did have similar interests. He liked the rock music. Um, he would be classified as intellectually disabled. His IQ was about 70. He had a learning disability,
Sure.
um, which will prove in his police interview how damaging that really was for him. Um, But he was an acquaintance to them. They liked Jesse. They didn't have an issue with Jesse. Damien was not the type to target people and pick on them for disadvantages because unfortunately he was a target for somebody, you know, stood out that was a lot different. Um, so 12 p.m. on May the 7th, okay, of 1993, Sudbury and Jones arrive to the trailer park that Damien lived in. They talk to his mother and they tell her that they want to interview him, okay? Mind you, these dipshits didn't take any fucking paper and pen with them. They wrote no notes whatsoever, but she's like, well, yeah, sure, I guess. That's fine, whatever. Go in, wait, you can talk to them. They go in, they interview him in his bedroom. They're asking him questions, yeah, and he's just like, I don't know any of those kids. Okay? Like, he's like, I don't know any of them. Lieutenant Sudbury actually took a Polaroid photograph of Damien in his bedroom, which
What
he
the
later took, yes, he later
No.
took around town. This is how they conducted their investigation. Mind you, they never went back to investigate the Bloody Bojangles. I just want to reiterate that, okay? Instead, we're in this 17-year-old's bedroom taking photos of him, asking him questions about where he was and everything. Take this photo, walk around town asking people, are you ready? Do you know who this devil worshiper is? And that's how they approached it. Do you know who this devil worshiper is? And they're like, oh yeah, I've seen that devil worshiper out there worshiping the devil. I shit you, that's how this went.
I'm already seeing
I know the
so
look
many
on your...
holes.
Now,
First of all, slander.
well, that's how they did it. You can look it up, I swear. There was one person that even said that they swore that Damien made them levitate. I'm upset I didn't witness that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it completely spiraled out of control.
My thing is also, why would his mom allow them to speak to a minor?
Well, I don't think at the time she had no idea it was pertaining to this murder.
Me as
They
a
just
mom,
come in and they're like,
can I ask what this is regarding? Since he's a minor?
well,
And
they're very...
Then you guys question a minor, not in a professional setting.
Well, we're going to talk about his home life too.
Yeah,
like
okay.
Yeah, I know I told you you're going to get angry. So they made a point to also include in this photograph the fact that Damien had tattoos, because God forbid, and he had the pentagram on his chest, which is actually a very symbolic thing for the Wiccan world. It's not what people think that it is, but they're going to take it and play off of it, right?
Well, let me just
now,
explain really quick. The negative version of the pentagram is upside, the point being it's sitting on its point. When you practice when you're a true Wiccan and you practice it legitly in a non-satanic way, your symbol is the pentacle, and it's on its it's standing on its bottoms, just on 2 points, not one. So devil worshipping is the 1 point. It's standing on just 1 point. So that really is the difference.
I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Damien was older. He wasn't 17. His first run-in with the police was when he was 17. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Which we're going to talk about. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So he was 18 or 19. Somewhere in that range. I misquoted, so forgive me. I'm sorry. So he wasn't 17 at the time that this happened. But, I mean, he's living with his parents. In my mind, granted, legally he is an adult. He's still a kid. His brain hasn't completely quit growing yet. And he dropped out of high school. Yeah, probably because people kept giving him shit. But you'll learn that Damien kind of again, his defense mechanism is just to be an asshole back to you. Because you're being a dick to him, so he's going to be a dick back to you. So, and you kind of can't blame him in a sense. So 2 days later, they had an official interview with Damien. Okay, an official interview. They're going to interview him again. And during this interview, Damien was asked whether one of the boys was more savagely attacked than the other. Remember how I told you that this was all over in the media? He had read about it. he didn't know who these three kids are, and he's like, well, yeah, I kind of read about it, and they said they made the point to say, well, only a killer would know that.
Oh, Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Um.
So I'm seeing
Yeah.
now
They.
that they're playing off of his lack
Mm-hmm.
thereof
Oh, it's going to
education.
get better. Don't worry. It's about to get
Sickening.
better. That this is why I told you like this is going to be like a multi-parter.
They
Like
played
there's so
mind
much. Yeah.
fuckery. It sounds like okay. Yeah, I'm already vibing
Mm-hmm.
off of this.
Now we're going to go back to when Damien was 17 years old. Okay, in his first run-in with the police. Damien did not have a very good upbringing. They were constantly moving all the time. He was very depressed. His parents fought all the time. I don't think his mother really necessarily gave him the attention that he needed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he was being a typical teenager. He was brought up Catholic. He didn't find any hope in that. He discovered, Wiccan, and that's what he decided he was drawn to. He found a little bit of peace and comfort in that.
Hmm.
But even then, he's still not happy, so he decides he wants to run away with his girlfriend. So him and his girlfriend run away. They break into this abandoned trailer. They're being typical teenagers. Tell me no one has ever thought about running away before. Like, oh, my life is so terrible, so I'm going to do this, right? Um, it was within an hour that police was there. Okay, and they immediately arrested Damien.
Jesus.
Yes. Now, obviously, this is how he became in Steve Jones' eyes because Steve Jones was his probation officer.
There it
Okay, do you
is.
see how things are getting
Mm-hmm.
tied together? There's also another fucking prick that I'm going to bring up too. They did have him put into a psychiatric facility where they did do psychological tests. Of course, he was diagnosed with severe depression and he was given an antidepressant that he acknowledged that he needed and he took all the way up until when he goes to court. Because in case you haven't gathered based upon the picture and what I'm telling you, they did prosecute these people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I can tell.
to the fullest that they possibly could. Okay. And
Jesus.
he willingly took his medicine. Okay. But obviously that wasn't enough for him. Now, Jerry Driver, this is the bigger prick in the picture, was the chief juvenile probation officer. So I guess he was like Steve Jones' boss or whatever, and he hated Damien. Okay, now even though being a juvenile probation officer was what Jerry did during the day, you want to know where his real passion was? Every full moon, he would drive around at night to see how many satanic rituals and sacrifices he could come across. Yeah,
Because they're just happening on every corner. Like there's a
all the
Starbucks,
time.
you know?
Sir, I need to know how many you found. Like, what
Lord.
what was your count? Yeah, he literally had a fucking program to stop the occult because I guess listening to heavy metal music and everything, there he was more concerned about our youth joining a cult and sacrificing people than the drug problem.
I mean, 80s and 90s grunge was a big thing but I mean not that doesn't mean you're in a cult. That's very yeah, that's profiling and that's terrible. But okay.
Well, I really want to know, Dingle Dick, how many fucking cults did you find on a full moon that was sacrificing people? I need to know.
I bet you find more crystals out in people's yards charging than you did cults.
I know he's
Hey.
yeah. But it's I look it up. I don't know if they're
Mm-hmm.
still alive or not. And if you are, I hope you stump your toe every day, like every single day,
Every time you
multiple
get out of
times
bed.
a day. Yeah, every time. First thing in the morning, I do. They're such shitty people. So obviously that after that they were constantly riding Damien's ass.
Jesus.
Constantly. So I hope now that makes sense as to why this is coming up in today. Okay. Well,
Well,
not
they
today,
know,
but during that time.
being his probation officer, they know he has a shitty upbringing. They know he doesn't have solid parents. They know he doesn't have a a backbone, like a backbone to come after them. So he's an easy target.
Well, so now we're going to go fast forward back to modern time. Okay. Um, May 8th, 1993, Detective Bill Durham, who is, I'm sorry, Bill Durham and investigator Shane Griffith, they then question Damien again. Like, they won't let him go. Like, it's every day.
Oh
And
my god. This poor
Damien
kid.
being Damien, yeah, I know. He's like, this is my life now. Like, he's like,
Knock on the
this is
door.
what
They're
I go
like,
through every
let him
day.
in, put on a pot of coffee.
Yeah.
They're going to be
You
here a
here
while.
again? Can I fix myself up before you take my picture again,
Right.
please? But this time he's with Jason. Remember, his best friend?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so now they're questioning Jason, and Jason's like, I have no fucking clue what you're talking. Like, and they don't.
Kids
They
can't
have
just be
no
friends.
idea.
Jeez.
Yeah. Oh no, no, no. They're
Mm.
like, this is making more sense. You all killed them kids, sacrificing them for your religion. Mind you, Jason never said he identified as Wiccan. He was just really, he was best friends with Damien. Just because he's best friends with him doesn't mean he believes in the same things that he does. And just because Damien's a Wiccan doesn't mean that he wants to kill people.
I really
Like,
hate that they're
that's,
giving it that name though. Like they're honestly giving Wiccan such a bad name in this case, and it's making me so
well,
mad.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I know. I told you. I told you. And I've tried not to be super, super, like, yeah. Anywho, again, they weren't taking notes. Funny, they didn't have paper and pen that day again.
Hmm.
You would think, yeah, I know, isn't that weird? So May 10th, 1993, they called Damien. They want him to come in for an interview, and he's like, maybe if I go, they'll get off my dick. Like,
Ah,
so he goes without an attorney. Okay, yeah.
sweet, sweet boy.
He's, I know, but I see it and I'm like, you should have gotten an attorney, but maybe he was thinking in that time, like, if I get an attorney,
Mm.
then they're going to think I'm guilty. You know what I mean? Like, and newsflash, he wasn't, but yeah. So he goes, he's sitting there getting interviewed, and they are like, we're going to give you a polygraph. And he's like, okay, like, go ahead. And then they tried to tell him that he failed the polygraph. However, they wouldn't ever show him the results or anything. Yeah. They never show. Yes. Yeah. May 12th, 1993. Okay. They didn't arrest him. Obviously, they didn't have enough evidence yet to arrest him. So they
Okay.
let him go. Yeah. Um, Police then question Pam, Damien's mother. Okay. And she tells them then, she's like, he was here that night on the phone for hours with a friend of his. He was
Alibi.
here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Which they didn't believe. So May 19th, 1993, we're going to introduce Vicki Hutchinson. I told you there's a lot of people in this.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Vicki, who is a private citizen, who has nothing to do with any of this, decides that she's going to be a volunteer detective for the police. Right? She's like, I need to involve myself in this somehow, even though it's not my business. And the police are like, please,
You can do that.
yes, involve yourselves. Well, Vicky did. Um, she's an asshole too. Like, there's so many assholes in this. This is one of those cases where everybody on the outside is assholes, and the people getting convicted are not the assholes. In case you haven't figured that out, it sucks. Yeah. So Vicky decides she's going to conduct her own investigation because, she's totally qualified to do that. Now, understand that Vicky had some run-ins with the law herself, and she was facing charges for check fraud.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. We're
Um.
gonna let her on this
So,
case.
yes, we're gonna let her on. She has never went to college to do criminal justice whatsoever. She's not a police department employee, but she's just a fucking bitch that
This
decided
can't
to
be
involve
allowed.
herself. Well, it was. You haven't heard what they've done yet. Like, So, I
This
know,
is
I
a
love the
shit
look on your.
show.
I know. Meanwhile, the bloody Bojangle still has not been investigated. Okay, I just want to throw
That's
that
like
out there.
Jody
Okay.
walking up saying, "I've seen every episode of CSI. I've got this," and they just let her
Yeah,
be a
I've
detective on a
watched
case.
Grey's Anatomy. I can perform this brain surgery. Yeah.
Please, oh
So
my
she
god.
conducts her own investigation of this case with Damien and Jesse. Jesse was her neighbor. Okay. And he would go over to her house. Mind you, Jesse is literally he back then they did refer to it as mentally retarded. We don't use that term no more, but that's what he was. And he would
Mm-hmm.
go over there and hang out, like not knowing that she had it out for him and was plotting him to be a murderer. Yeah, and here he's just like, yeah, let me help you, Miss Vicky. Like, yeah, I know. So, anywho, she's she gets in touch with the police and she's like, I think I can help you solve this crime. I know that Damien does these really terrible cult things because Jesse introduced me to him and he took me to this ritual where people were naked and touching each other and they were, doing all this weird witchy stuff. And they were like, yep, I bet that happened.
I
Yes.
I
Yeah.
feel I feel like we're listening to the Crucible. Like, can't.
Mm-hmm. Now, so they're talking to her. They're like, we need you to get like an audio tape of Damien, confessing what he did. And she's like, sure, yeah, I can do that. I shit you not, this happened. Like, I know you're like, there's no way this. I'm going to remind you that this really did happen. Like, but they're like, but you got to set the scene. You need to get some witchcraft books, go to the library. And she's like, well, I don't have a library card. And they were like, don't worry, use ours. I
Please use
shit you
ours.
not. They gave her their library card so she could go check out Wiccan books as a ploy, because he's going to be like, okay, yeah, you got a Wiccan book. So I'm going to confess that I killed 3 little boys to you.
Like, they were
Yes.
trying to make it look like she was Wiccan, so he felt comfortable enough to admit.
Well, her plot was, I'm
God.
going to convince Damien. I'm very curious into learning more about the Wiccan culture and all these things. And if he comes over and he they're like, well, we gotta,
It's
we
not
gotta plan.
killing children.
Yeah,
Anyone.
that doesn't happen. So, yeah. Now this is when she tells them that, he came over. I couldn't get him to confess, but he took me to this big orgy fest and I was uncomfortable and I made him take me home. Yeah, because that makes perfectly good sense.
I mean,
yeah.
I can't say that probably didn't happen.
Damien
Not
was
with
also
them,
like,
but
I have never seen this woman in my entire life.
but
Yeah.
I can't say that orgy parties don't happen anywhere. So, I mean, whatever. But I can't imagine
Well,
he took
mate.
a minor, because at that time he was 18.
Yeah, but Jesse was 17.
And he took a grown
and-
adult to an orgy. Cool. Okay.
Yes. Uh, yeah, Jesse apparently wasn't comfortable with the orgy, so he had ran long before, is what she said. I know,
Okay.
it's not funny, but... All right, so May 27th, 1993, police interviewed Vicky again because she's such a reliable source. They gave her a polygraph, and you know what? She was telling the truth on hers. Can you believe that? Oh, my God. Yeah, I know. They couldn't produce that polygraph either, by the way. I'm just going to throw that out there. She never see that.
I don't know if they stand today, if they did back then, or if they've ever been.
You can bring it
court.
up, but it's not enough to. Yeah, it depends on the state.
Okay.
But when lawyers asked for that, they were like, "Oh well, we don't have."
Of course they didn't.
Yeah, of course they didn't. Yeah. So May 27th, 1993, police interview Vicky again. This time she brings her child, who was 8 at the time. This child knew they went to school with Stevie, Christopher, and Michael.
Oh.
You're bringing your child into this. And she didn't need to be in it at all to begin with. Like, it had nothing to do with
How
her.
traumatizing for a young person when you really had no reason to be in it in the first place.
Well, he tells the police that he and the 3 boys that were murdered used to visit Robin Hood Hills together. And they had often at times seen 5 men in the woods sitting in a circle singing songs to the devil and doing what men and ladies do. That came out of this kid's mouth. Tell me they were coerced into saying something without telling me they were coerced into saying something.
This is so much
So,
fuckery. I can't even.
mm-hmm. I
It's
know.
messy fuckery. Okay.
Yeah.
Continue. This is
So
sad.
obviously they're so June 3rd, 1993. They're convinced by the polygraph results, that they had their murders. They knew it was Jason, Jesse, and Damien. So they go and knock on. Now Vicky actually had Jesse come over and stay the night with her the night before the police came and picked him up for his interview. He was at her trailer because she was scared that her boyfriend was going to hurt her. So he went to protect her and has no idea that she's going behind his back telling police, I think he's responsible for this awful murder. But yet you're asking him to stay in your house. Like, you can't tell me you believe that he, with a gun there, okay,
Yeah.
that if he did this god awful thing, that you would allow him to sleep on your couch.
Facts.
He wakes up to police beating on the trailer. And he answers, and they're like, we need you to come with us. They actually tell him that there was a $35,000 reward. And Jesse later does tell the reason he went. Are you ready? Is because he thought he could buy his dad a new truck. Yeah. Yeah.
What a sweet
So,
kid.
yeah, this is where we're going to stop part 1 because we're going to talk a lot more about Jesse's interrogation with the police. I think I've rose Ashley's blood pressure enough with this.
These sweet little boys, I have my suspicions that obviously they were set up. I don't know by who, but I'm getting really mad. I'm getting really
I told
fucking
you
mad.
you would. I told you I would.
And I feel like
I'm very passionate about this case.
I feel like their mental incapabilities were taken advantage of, and that's where you really boil my blood. So.
Yes. Yes. So, for the meantime, though, what do they need to do, Ash?
Well, you need to follow us on YouTube and Spotify so you can hear the rest of the story and all the other ones that we've released before this or after this. And you need to go and follow us on most social media platforms.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. We will see you for part 2.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, doll babies.